We're on the same
When I
side.
woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
One about the past and one about the future.
Welcome back to Draftvice. It is here. We are here. It is now. We are close to football season, folks.
We are here. We are here. It is now.
There we go.
Captain Obvious. That's just
Football season is less than a few days away, man. Oh, kickoff is coming.
Yeah, less than a week. Definitely less than a week by the time this gets out there. Less than a week.
Well, we're recording it already with less than a week.
Well, yeah. I mean, but you know, when this gets to you, it'll be
Even less.
lesser than a week. We are here.
Yes. So welcome back to Draftvice. If you want, you can follow the podcast at Draftvice_football on Instagram, at Draftvice on Twitter. If you want, you can follow me at Wojo Deathpunch on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, basically all platforms where you can follow people. And do you have a follow account?
Yeah, Pums142 Instagram, and then we also have the Bi-State Football. Have no idea what that handle is.
That is
though.
drafting tonight while we're
Oh, my
recording
God.
this. Yes.
Well, not while we're recording it.
Yes,
but-
you're doing the live cast the draft.
yeah.
Then you
We
really
should
get to
do
see
that.
it. Yeah, that would be dope.
Maybe we'll do that.
Next time on Draftvice.
Yeah.
So,
We could capture that.
also, if you're listening to this on iTunes, leave a 5-star review, subscribe, try to get this going up in the rankings. Up
Yeah.
in the rankings. Up in the rankings.
Yeah, we
And
pay attention. We do our part.
Yeah. Also, YouTube. Do the YouTube. Like it. Subscribe to the YouTube. And we'll have some more sexy stuff, and also the Instagram, which seems to be the most poppin' thing we got. So anyway, dude, it is Cutdown day yesterday. Now everybody's putting in their waiver claims, and we've had a bunch of crazy-ass trades. Football season is here, and it has been the craziest 2 weeks before football season I think I've seen in a while.
At least 3 weeks.
yeah, at least 3 weeks.
But, yeah, freaking Houston, man. Making moves left and right.
Trading everything, just
Yeah.
trade, but didn't even get much. So they trade Jadaveon Clowney. If you didn't hear, I don't know how you didn't hear by now. The Texans has traded Jadaveon Clowney to the Seattle Seahawks, and for a third-round pick, Barkevious Mingo and another linebacker. Is it Robert Martin?
Something like
Russell
that.
Martin. And
Russell Martin.
it sounds like he's related to their center, Nick Martin.
Maybe.
But it's just been a crazy week. And then not only that, they made an agreement with the Seattle Seahawks to pay half of his tender. So they're going to pay like $7 million for him to play on the Seahawks.
Yep, well,
And they got all that for a third-round pick.
yeah, and Barkevious Mingo.
Yeah. Former first-round pick, Barkevious Mingo. Yeah. So that was an interesting day, and everybody saw this, and they were like, what the f-? It keeps on getting better and better, and the Seattle Seahawks just went ahead, and I think, what was it? The Seattle Seahawks traded Frank Clark earlier this season, and now they have Ziggy Ansah and Jadaveon Clowney for the same price tag as they would have for Frank Clark, plus they got a first and a second rounder out of him.
Yep.
That's insane. Seattle Seahawks are doing some crazy things. I mean, there are some front offices, man, that are impressive. I think the Seattle Seahawks are definitely one of them.
Yeah, and I got to give credit to Miami.
Oh, yes, because we haven't talked about that yet.
Yes.
There was the Laremy Tunsil trade to the Houston Texans, because the Houston Texans kind of flubbed their offensive line this year, and I'm pretty sure Deshaun Watson was at risk for losing his kidneys again. And so I guess Bill O'Brien, this is, I think, why they fired their general manager, is that he didn't address the offensive line enough, and they drafted Titus Howard in the first round. The amount of first-round picks that they've spent, the amount of picks they've spent just trying to get this O-line corrected, and they got, now they just traded for Laremy Tunsil from Miami, and they gave them 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder, Batamosi and Julian Davenport, which, I mean, you don't want him being your left tackle, that's for damn sure.
And they got Kenny Stills, and they got a 4th and a 6th back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the 4th rounder was the thing I thought was the big kicker there. I thought like the 6th rounder was whatever. Kenny Stills, I think they were cutting anyway. I don't think they wanted to keep him. I do not think that Miami's in full tank mode, dude. And I'm thinking they're willing to trade whatever they got. They want as many picks for next year and the picks for the following year as they can get.
Yeah. And
They're
like
getting young.
you mentioned, this could be a 2-year tank.
Yeah, this could be a tank. I don't think it's tank for Tua. I think it's tank for Trevor.
Yeah. tank for Trevor, which means they might be even looking to trade these picks that they're getting.
To trade down and
To
get more
trade
picks
down
and just
the next
start
year.
accumulating.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be their plan going into this year. I mean, now I guess every Miami fan better hope that the Texans don't do well. Which, I mean, Deshaun Watson's still at risk for losing his head playing behind that offensive line because just because you have Laremy Tunsil, I mean, Miami was probably the 32nd ranked offensive line with Laremy Tunsil.
Correct, yeah.
You know, he's an above average left tackle. He is at that good pass blocker, not a great run blocker, but he is like probably right outside the top 10 in left tackles.
He was the gas mask draft pick, correct?
Yes, he was.
Yes,
he was the guy from was it Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think it was Ole Miss, yeah. And someone hacked his Instagram, just threw him smoking a bong out of a gas mask on draft night. That was good.
So the Texans clearly don't care what's going to happen in 2 years, and they don't have a GM right now. They have Bill O'Brien running everything, and he is like, you know what, we're going to go for it. And if we go out losing, it don't matter anyway. I'm losing my job. Which this is why you have a GM, folks.
Yeah, because I think it's like very, very selfish because what he's doing, great. If you want to put your name on the line and do it like that, but you're messing with the year of progression for Deshaun Watson. You're missing out on probably, let's say it all goes bad, but like DeAndre Hopkins, like that's, these are big guys, big names that you're messing around with their season, and
the guy they just fired was his pick to be in the front office. So now they wasted an offseason. They now had to trade first-round picks in the next 2 drafts and a second-round pick to go ahead and get a left tackle. That's just a left tackle. You could have probably traded those first-rounders to get, like, offensive linemen at other positions.
Yeah.
And as long as you are, at that average level for offensive line, Deshaun Watson was behind a crappy offensive line the last 2 years. And it showed, and it caused him injury, and it's not gotten exponentially better.
No.
So you basically just mortgage the future of that franchise.
I don't think Deshaun Watson is any happier. Like
I think he's slightly happier. I guess he doesn't have to worry about the left tackle position.
Yeah, but if I feel like he cared about getting like killed every game, but he also cares about the team and like his ability to go farther, maybe into the postseason with that team. I mean, if you're wasting the 2 first-round picks and the second-round pick on Miami's best lineman, I mean, it's not really saying much. And then the other thing is that, like, I just don't see these guys being happy with the Texans come this year if it's a bad year.
Oh, imagine this is a bad year, and not for nothing. Like there's a lot of opportunity for it to be a bad year still.
And this is ownership. This is ownership giving Bill O'Brien the okay to do all this, make all these choices.
Well, didn't their owner recently pass away last year?
That's true.
And I think it's now one of his family members that's running it, and probably doesn't know necessarily how to.
Nonetheless, it's ownership.
Franchise. Yeah, well, I mean, it always seems to come down to ownership. The worst franchises are the ones that are being run badly.
I think that's what happened with Jadaveon Clowney, too. I mean, he wasn't dealing with professionals,
Well, not only that, but Jadaveon Clowney, I mean, like, so they didn't get a deal done before the July 15th deadline. So you weren't extending him. Now it was, okay, well, we'll trade him, right? Well, he didn't sign his tender, so he got to pick where he was getting traded to. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to go to Miami. He didn't want to... So he said, listen, I'm not signing the tender to go to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And he refused to play there.
And that probably cost Houston a couple of draft picks, as we saw.
So they can get a left tackle, yeah.
Exactly, so...
And so it was basically his choice of where he wanted to go, and he wanted Seattle or he wanted the Eagles. And Seattle was like, yeah, we'll give you a third rounder, and if you pay half a salary, and we'll give you Barkevious Mingo. Yeah, he's he's done well for us.
Yeah,
take some Barkevious Mingo with him. So, the Texans. It's gonna be a wild ride of a shit show, and the problem is who gets to clean it up.
Yeah, what's crazy is though that the team is talented. I mean,
it is.
It's kind of an awkward situation. It's like when Peyton Manning got hurt on the Colts, right? It was like you saw how much Peyton Manning was a part of that team and how it was everything. They almost didn't win a game, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 games.
I think they won 1, and that's what gave them the first pick to Andrew Luck over RG3.
Yeah,
but like But
yeah, there's some players who are just transcend. Well, Luck was that way too when he was on the Colts.
and there you go. So now
because you saw them go 2-14 or 3-14.
So it's just like crazy to see like what's going to happen when you have this crazy. I feel like the office side of things is messed up, but the team still has potential to be.
Well, but
best
the
team in the
GM who
division.
drafted those guys isn't there anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the new GM who was there for 1 year got fired because how did he handle the O-line? Well, they didn't trade up to get Andre Dillard, so they got stuck with Titus Howard, who was just the next tackle on their board. Mm-hmm. And Titus Howard has not developed because Titus Howard was maybe a third-round pick at best, and he went in the first round. Mm-hmm. And now you have an offensive line. Now you hope he develops as at least a guard, and you hope that he gives, they get enough time to at least let Deshaun Watson throw. It's going to be interesting because keep in mind he's got to go up against some pretty rough, competition.
Yeah.
Especially, they play Jacksonville and the Tennessee Titans, which both those teams seem to do pretty well against the Texans. Like, it's strange.
Yeah, I don't think the Titans are going to be that crazy all this year, but
Well, they're missing Lawan, but Jacksonville.
Saxonville.
Yeah, I think it's the return of Saxonville. I think Nick Foles is at least an upgrade on Blake Bortles.
I think it's
now.
more
Granted, I'm not as sure in my pick for Saxonville making it to the playoffs, and it's weird because you'll hear people say they think that Saxonville is going to go 4-12 or 10-6. Like it's the strangest variance. I think they could easily be back to prominence like they were a couple years ago. It takes everything to come together, but when you look at that division with no Andrew Luck anymore, and now granted, I think the Colts are going to be a hard out, and I think the Colts, that's a rough division, man. That's a weird division.
Yeah.
AFC South.
Did the Bears make the playoffs last year? I know that's out of
did.
right field. They did. I think because I'm comparing the Jaguars to the Bears. I mean,
it's also why I'm not high on the Bears this year.
Yeah.
Because
they have a really strong
off
defense. Yeah, but it's hard to win. Defense wins championships, but when it comes to regular season games, I just feel like they don't.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of true, and I think when you look at the last 2 years, I think there is some kind of you still need good offensive play. Like you can't win purely on defense because
you need to score points because the higher points wins.
Look at Kansas City. Kansas City made it to the playoffs off just outscoring everybody.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Rams were decent on defense, but they weren't spectacular.
No. They did they underperformed for that talent that they had on the defense.
Well, they had a lot of injuries right away, especially at the corner position. But yeah, when you think about they had Sue, they had Donald, and now even still having Aaron Donald's the key part of that defense. Like everybody else is kind of it's Aaron Donald and the LA Rams.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that their offense is so good, they just have to be average at defense or better.
Yep. And
they do play pretty damn well on defense, at least enough to be competitive there too. It's the same thing with the Saints. The Saints I don't think have an elite level defense, but they're good enough on defense where they could stop you from scoring points.
They can stop you from scoring touchdowns. I think. See, that's the team. If you that's the goal is if they can hold you to a field goal every drive, doesn't matter if you put up 16 or 19 points via field goals. They're going to score a touchdown plus those field goals. So they can hold you to a field goal or better or less rather every drive and still beat you. You're going to have to put up 21 or more points to beat them.
Yeah.
On their bad days.
And that's why the problem with the Cowboys last year is they were not scoring a lot of points. The Cowboys defense was actually good last year, but they were not scoring points until they got Amari Cooper. And even when they got Amari Cooper, they weren't scoring that much better. They were doing better.
Yeah.
So basically, this is the NFL where you have to score points. But I could definitely see a resurgence from Saxonville, and I could see a falling from Chicago Bears, especially because they no longer have Vic Fangio. So we were talking about the Texans side of these two trades. Where again, they basically first off we've already credited Seattle for winning.
Mm-hmm. Miami's a win too.
Depends on it's not a win for the fan base for right now. I mean,
not for right now, but you got
at this point trade Rosen, trade everybody, get as much as you can.
Yeah, but I think that's what the two first rounds. I mean, Rappaport said yesterday that over the next 2 years they have 4 first rounds and 4 second rounds, and so I guess it's 2 from each year. Going into next year's draft, those are potentially they can just move those pick back and get even more on top of it.
This is going to be basically they're redoing what the Browns tried to do. My only thing is, and something I wanted to address, is that the CBA is coming up. So this ability to manipulate the contracts for the rookie wage scale might not be like with the new CBA. It might be tweaked differently. You might not have as much of a leverage with the rookie wage scale as you currently do. So you might be playing for the future, but we don't know what the future is going to be. Now, I think it's still going to be a similar process, but there is a risk here inherent in this. We're going to play off this draft pick process, and we're going to try to accumulate picks and make a very flush roster at the bottom and make it a very young, cheap roster. I think there's a risk here that they, especially if the players get a little bit more than what they're asking for, if they manage to actually strike and they manage to actually negotiate well, there is an opportunity here for the players to change the way the CBA is. Now, they haven't necessarily been a good union, but this is why this strategy right now is a little risky in my view.
I feel like, though, contract-wise, they are satisfied. I feel like if the main points of the new CBA were to be brought up today, I think they want to take some of the power away from Goodell. Because, I think
they also want to add marijuana, like allow them to...
Well, and that's my whole thing is like that I feel is going to be the focus of the CBA coming up is like taking away power from Goodell as far as suspensions and like what he can and cannot do, which they basically agreed for last time because of the money. I think it's going to be opposite this time as far as they want more control for themselves, and they'll be willing to stick with what they currently have as far as veteran contracts, draft rookie contracts, and stuff like that.
And keep in mind, it's not rookies who get to. It's not the incoming rookies who get to vote on this. So the people who are the least affected, the people who are most affected, have the least say. Right? Now.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the CBA.
Yeah. Have you seen some of the fines that have came out for the preseason?
No, I haven't. Actually,
there's been like weird fines and like Leonard. I'll pay attention to the one I saw. Like Leonard Williams, not Leonard Williams. New one, Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams got fined.
He's got all the Williamses.
Yeah, he got fined for hitting Matt Ryan $22,000 for a preseason hit against Matt Ryan. That's a lot of money from a rookie.
Yeah.
During a preseason game.
Keep in mind, he is a top 5 pick. So
I get it. He's a top 5.
More, but I understand what you're saying.
It's preseason to the point where, I get it. We don't want anyone to get hurt during the preseason, but you can't be like handing out $20,000 fines for someone who was literally playing his first game in the NFL.
Well, not only that, but this is one of the things I always find weird about that is you can't do that in any other industry. Like, you can't be working at FedEx and then you fucked up a box and they fine you.
Or like you failed to drive around the pothole and the tire on our truck popped.
Yeah, they can't.
Now we're fining you $10,000.
Yeah, they can't do that in any other industry, but for football, they're allowed to. That never made any sense to me whatsoever.
And I get it. The money goes to a good cause, because that money does get like donated in some way or somehow. But also, like, there was no penalty called on the play either. And like he hit him. He hit him good. Like, it was like they fined him for a regular season hit during the preseason. That's like literally what it was. And it's just like crazy that he has the control and there's no challenging it. Like, as far as like when they fine you, there's no challenging it. Like,
well, there is an appeal process.
You can appeal a fine, or can you only appeal suspensions? Because I feel like that was something, like when they get a fine, they just accept their fines.
Well, we don't always know the process. They might have already appealed it by the point that you're hearing about. Because none of that stuff's made public until they make it public.
Yeah.
That they're either already appealing it. Sometimes you'll hear about a suspension, and they've already gone through the appeal process.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question, because you might remember better. The referees went on strike the year before the CBA, the players went on strike, correct? Or was it vice versa?
I think it was after.
After. Because that's what I want. I want rules for referees. I'm really getting fed up. Like, now, like, think about it. You can challenge pass interference. and you can challenge all these things, and the referees never get crap ever. And like I just feel like there needs to like.
Well, that was the question last year. They was like the first time they fired a referee mid-season or something.
Yeah, and I get like that they can fire the referee, but like at the end of the day, like I feel like referees should just. I mean, there needs to be more checks and balances. To me, after watching the preseason, I feel like the referees are just calling. It's like almost getting like pulled over by a police officer. Like if a police officer pulls you over, he can find something to give you a ticket for. It's like that
holding.
happens. Yeah, holding happens on every play.
Yeah, and there's a certain there's a certain way. It's like if it's close enough to the play, they won't call it. Or if it's far enough away from the play, like they're not going to call it. Holding happens on pretty much every play. And it's when they call it, they're calling it because of a specific reason, or also the way you're holding them too.
Yeah,
like you can't put a guy in a headlock,
and you can't bring him down to the ground.
Yeah,
stuff like that. And I get that. My whole thing is it's just like if you're not going to call everything, you're not going to call anything, and then they do call it. So then you can obviously tell that they're picking to call some things, picking to call other things. And it's not.
Now the big question is this ability to question the referees, be able to throw a challenge flag and question
challenge
them.
A penalty. Yeah.
And
why can't you do it on every play? You know, like why can't I challenge a face mask? Why can't I challenge holding? Could you imagine if you could challenge holding?
I mean, you'd suddenly have holding on every. Like you would literally.
I don't
holding. Like that play. I'm going to throw the challenge flag.
Exactly.
Now, the thing is, you only get 2 or 3 a game, so now you have to pick when you're using it.
See, like
that's why a lot of people. That's why you saw a lot of coaches do it in the preseason, is they want to test.
They want to see where it's at. And my whole thing is like, all right, you have those meetings to discuss like whether they're going to allow it or not. Shouldn't they also be discussing like what the penalty of pass interference is, what it entails, why it's called? This way,
I'm sure they
coaches
are.
Don't have to test it out. I mean.
I think that's what a lot of them are trying to figure out right now. I mean, I'm sure they all know.
I've seen a change in pass interference every year for 5 years. For the last 5 years at least. I remember 5 years ago, you remember the rule? Like you had to face the ball? Like like now you don't. Now you can, I guess, essentially shade the receiver. That's legal as long as you don't make contact. Now...
Well, I think that was always legal as long as you didn't make contact.
Well, the idea was like if you interfered with the pass, so they 5 years ago.
You interfere with the player getting the pass.
Correct. So 5 years ago, I remember like you know how they always target something in the preseason to like make the players and the coaches aware that this is how it's going to be. 5 years ago, that was the big talk. It was like, well, the defender has to be facing the ball, make eye contact with the ball in order to defend a pass.
Well, that's if they make contact with the receiver. There was a thing about in college you're not allowed to do that though.
Correct.
You can't do the there's another.
I'm trying to think of the word also. Sean Avery was actually the reason they got that goalie in hockey. They actually did that for Sean Avery. They implemented that rule because he used to just stand in front of the goalie and like block his vision.
And I think we're going to see a lot of things with penalties going into this year. I think it's going to be. I think people are going to get frustrated for 2 weeks, and then they're going to stop calling certain things. It's like last year when they kept on calling the roughing the passer.
Yeah, roughing
on
the
like
passer.
Every play.
See, but they kept calling it. Like I don't see like
Clay Matthews got a roughing the passer hit like every 3 minutes.
Correct. And like that's the other thing. Like why? I mean, I'm
Can you believe he's on the Rams now? That blows my mind. That he's on the Rams. I forget that. Like, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, where is he now?
I just don't get like okay, where can you hit the quarterback now? You can't hit him like knees down, thighs down,
basically
also chest up.
Yeah, it's basically chest to groin.
Yeah, and also
if
you tackle him in the right spot, if you bring him down to the ground, make sure that you are on
don't land on him.
Like don't land on him. We got to make so. And then, like, the mobile quarterback is the quarterback that's coming up in things. So now, like, okay, we got fast quarterbacks that know they can't get tackled.
Well, that's why they've been less willing to call it on running quarterbacks, because when they're a runner, that's why that was a big thing with Cam Newton a couple of years ago, is people were complaining that Cam Newton wasn't getting those calls. But the problem is Cam Newton would would become a runner and run.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's when that changes. When you are now a runner,
Of course. I mean, that's the thing. Now, the other thing was like, I believe there's a penalty called in the Jet-Saints game on one of the linebackers on the Jets who hit Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara was running with the ball, and there was helmet-to-helmet called on the play. Defenseless receiver, helmet-to-helmet. Like, so...
Well, you're not allowed to tackle your helmet. That's...
If you're running the ball and I lower my head to hit you, that's called a tackle. If you get lower than me or I get lower than you, I mean, going back to
okay, so you're saying
football,
he went and guarded himself and
exactly
okay.
Like if a running back lowers his head like running backs do when they get tackled, and you are tackling him and your helmet's hit. I mean, this is my point. At one point, is all the concussion protocol? Are they going to say like, all right, our helmets are good enough.
All right.
Hold on. Our helmets are good enough where we can allow helmet-to-helmet contact.
Well, that's never going to happen.
Of course. So then why change
never gonna
the
have a
helmets? AB, get your old helmet. You're allowed to wear it as far as I'm concerned because it doesn't matter because all the rules protect you anyway.
I like this conversation. We'll go back to it a little bit.
No, we got way too much to talk about.
Yeah, we'll go back to it another time as far as where the penalties are going. But let's go back to Miami real quick because they also traded away Kiko Alonso and got Vince Beagle from the Saints. They just seem to be stripping down the roster and getting guys that, like, I don't think they intended to trade Tunsil, but when somebody offers you a big amount of money, a big amount of picks, and you look at, like, the Texans traded more for Tunsil than the Chicago Bears traded for Khalil Mack last year. And also, one of the big fuck-ups on the Texans' end is they didn't extend Tunsil when they were doing it.
Correct. And
so now they're going to be stuck paying him through the nose when he comes up for contract, and he's going to be the highest-paid tackle in the NFL.
Well, because he has all the power.
Yeah, because you trade 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder for me. Now, he's got 2 more years left on his contract, but when those 2 years come up, dude, how much money he's going to be making $20 million a year as a left tackle. They should have extended him now because they can. He's 3 years in.
So I guess the gas mask never really hurt him.
No, well, I guess when you're that good. I mean, his first year, he wasn't that great, but he got better and better. And at least for pass blocking, he's a really good pass blocker. So, I don't know. The Texans, I'm glad I'm not a Texans fan because if it ends up being, like, there's a lot of volatility here. Listen, they might make it to the Super Bowl this year, but I don't see this going very well in the long term. Especially because you're going to have to extend Watson, extend Tunsil.
When did J.J. Watt sign? He signed last year? He re-signed
his
recently?
Extension. I think it was a 5-year, $100 million extension when he first did it. So he's got to be coming up. Maybe he did a couple-year extension.
That's coming up as well?
Yeah. They have cap space, but also you got to keep in mind now there's no ownership. They got to figure all that out too.
Well, yeah, and anytime you trade a draft pick for a player, remember that you're always losing cap space. Your picks don't cost you anything.
In comparison, unless you're spending a top pick on a running back, then it's the same as actually just signing a running back in free agency. Mm-hmm. So Miami looks like they're going full tank. Like I said before, who else could they even trade at this point?
Miami?
Yeah, I think they have Xavier Howard.
Well, if Fitzpatrick comes out and throws 4 touchdowns week 1.
You're going to trade Fitzpatrick to who?
Colts.
Yeah, if Brissett gets injured, if there's something
like that.
If something bad happens on that end, I could see them trading. But basically, they have 2 assets left right now. They've got Xavier Howard, and they got Josh Rosen. And if somebody came to me for...
Who are their wide receivers?
Devontae Parker.
Yeah. Well, he's at the end of his career, really.
Well, he's at the end of his contract. They extended him 1 year, but really, he was on his 5th-year option, and they extended him a year on it. But basically, all they did was split the amount because they could have just cut him. Mm-hmm. But they kept him in Miami. They could trade him, but I don't know what you would get for Devontae Parker.
And they got the cornerback, too, right?
Xavier Howard. That's really... they just extended him.
Don't they have...
Minka Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
I don't think they're trading him. He's so young that it doesn't make sense to trade him. He's an asset that you want to keep on the team. That just like they have Wilkins, just like they have assets on that team.
Laremy Tunsil. Oh.
No.
See, like Laremy Tunsil was young to me. Like it wasn't too long ago.
Well, he was on the end of his contract. They're gonna have to come up and extend him. Yeah, so but they got and they weren't. I don't think they were planning on trading him. What they did is they got Texans came to them with an offer they couldn't refuse. So they said, "All right, we'll take him." So Miami is going to be it's going to be a sad year for Miami. It's going to be an easy out. Basically, everybody who plays Miami this year, I think they're going to get a win. If you lose to Miami, I don't know what you're doing.
The Giants play the Miami.
I think the Giants can beat them.
I think the Giants can beat them also, but I think that's going to be your toilet bowl this year.
Oh, well, at least the Giants have an offensive line.
That's okay.
Like, at least they have something.
They got Saquon. They should win.
They should. Yeah, they should. And
They
I think their
should.
defense is actually going to be slightly better than what they like. I think the Giants, their defense is going to be decent. So
Just any given Sunday, though. Remember that.
absolutely. So, I mean, since the Browns play them this year, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a
You guys get to play them twice.
That's going to be a dumb game to watch.
They're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be as. I don't think they're. Gonna,
don't
I
think
saw
there's
that
gonna
they
be-
weren't gonna be an easy
I don't
out.
think there's going to be another Miami miracle this year against the Patriots. That's
Oh.
for sure.
Yeah. Ugh. So Miami, 0-16, maybe 1-16. They get lucky.
Yeah, and we
Dude,
can see them have the top pick in the draft and trade it.
I think that'll happen. I absolutely think it'll happen.
At least trade back.
I do think that's going to happen. And also, what my question is Flores a scapegoat? Is that the whole reason why they signed him to be the head coach? Is
Maybe.
just so they could fire him in 2
Like,
years?
hey, would you like to be a head coach in the NFL and do nothing except for next year when you're not a head coach in the NFL, be able to say that one time you were a head coach in the NFL?
Well, not for nothing. You make bank as a head coach. You make a good amount of money. That's the thing about being a head coach in the NFL is you make life-changing money.
Yeah.
So that's why he did it. It's like, this is my one shot to be a head coach. Okay, I'll do it. Like you could have signed Tom Sula or you could sign this guy, but you're getting a guy in there to be like, okay, we're changing we know we're tanking. We'll just sign a head coach that's going to be a throwaway head coach, and I think that's what they did with
You
Flores.
think they might be targeting a head coach?
I think they're going to be waiting and seeing. I don't know if they have a specific person in mind yet.
McCarthy.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Anyway, there's some other news that happened. I think the
Some?
big one.
There's a lot of news.
Yeah, there was a lot. Well, it's cut. People got cut. People got traded. Lesean McCoy got cut by the Bills and then got signed by the Chiefs.
But we talked about it. We called it. We called it early.
Yeah,
That was like a month ago.
yeah, that was on this podcast. We called it.
And that's why you got to subscribe because you're getting tips. You're getting tips. Spoiler alerts in real life.
You wouldn't have drafted Lesean. Well, I don't think anybody drafted Lesean McCoy, but Damian Williams' stock, man, like that's a fantasy question mark there. Maybe we'll tag on the fantasy response to another. But
I think it's fine. I think he'll be fine. Damian Williams is a clear number one guy there. Carlos Hyde, though, came from the Kansas City Chiefs as well, though, right?
That's
That's what I'm saying.
They traded him to the Texans.
So that's, I mean, LeSean McCoy is going to be Hyde's replacement in a sense. And I don't think, I think, to be honest with you, same player. Last year, I was reading up on McCoy. He only got like 500 yards last year.
Dude, their O-line was trash. They had Josh Allen, who was on his rookie games, and you had Nathan Peterman. Like they were.
If you also remember, though, we were skeptical of even LeSean McCoy wasn't even going to play last year, though, because
He was also
had
injured, yeah.
well, he also had that incident that happened last year as well.
Oh, yeah.
He thought his career was over, and that just blew in the wind. Where'd that go?
Well, because it was because he wasn't. Yeah, it was like
It disappeared.
They said that he paid people to go ahead and break into his ex's house. I forgot about that.
The last thing I heard was that like it wasn't.
I think
his,
it was dropped. And
yeah. I mean, I just don't. Well, we won't hit that subject again about how things just the commissioner owns and other things he just forgets about. So
yeah, Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. I mean, I'm a Jet fan, so I'm a little biased. I'm pissed. Fucking Josh Gordon is still a player.
Well, that's because he plays for the Patriots.
Well, no. If he played for any other team, like I get it, it's marijuana, and we're working towards the legality of it, and players.
Well, also because when you're at that point, it's weird.
There's something about no matter what it is. I don't care if it was like he didn't know how to wipe his ass the right way. How many times do you have to tell someone not to do it, and then they do it anyway?
Yeah. No, I that part I agree with. Everybody's
So-
playing by the same rules. Why should he be able to come back so easily? I also don't know what necessarily he was suspended for. Did he fail a drug test or?
Yeah.
All right. I listen. I think McCoy wanted to win. He sees the Chiefs as his
Oh,
opportunity to win.
absolutely, 100%. Towards the end of his career as well.
I thought it was two teams. I thought there were. I put. I think on the Instagram I put up four options that were potential for him to go to. But I think the two that were mentioned that were in the real running were the Chargers and the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And there were real offers from both those teams for him to go there. Chargers because I think they're trading Melvin Gordon, and the Chiefs because listen, he's got a relationship with Andy Reid.
Somewhere in the back of my head, I thought Eagles.
I didn't think the Eagles.
Really
They
quick,
have
I
Miles
thought
Sanders. I don't think they really need him. I think they.
I think he would have just been a perfect depth running back going back to home. He'd go home. That kind of.
I
move.
can understand that
But-
going home again.
You hit on LAC.
Well, also Anthony Lynn. He has a good relationship with Anthony Lynn. That was the guy who was his running backs coach when he was in Buffalo, and he had one of his best seasons. So, that was a potential thing, and also because one of the things we're bringing up, Chargers have granted Melvin Gordon permission to go ahead and seek a trade.
Yep.
That's big news because I think it means that Melvin Gordon's playing this year.
I think he's playing this year. I think he's not playing for LAC.
Here's the thing. He might go seek a trade, and all these teams are going to say, well, how much is it going to be for me to extend you? And this is maybe what the Steelers should have did with Le'Veon Bell last year. Because now he gets to look at the market. His agent now gets to call everybody and say, what would you be willing to pay to have our guy? And if they all say it's the same as the Chargers, why wouldn't you just stay with the team you're on that you had success with? This is why I think the Steelers should have did this with Le'Veon Bell last year. Listen, you want to see what the market is for you on the outside? We'll give you permission to go talk to other teams. And then you'll get an idea of what your value is. We'll say you can't talk to anybody in the AFC North. I'm sure they said Melvin Gordon's not allowed to talk to anybody in the AFC West. But go ahead and check out the other teams. And now you get to see if our contract's right. I don't know why more teams don't do this.
I mean,
well, maybe they're at risk of saying, hey, you know what? We'll pay you twice as much.
exactly.
You want to see the market. This is the market. But
Exactly.
the other end of it is everybody was saying the Steelers offered him a fair deal. Well, if the Steelers had done that to Le'Veon Bell last year and let him go talk to other teams, he would have been like, okay, it's maybe not much more anyway. Oh, they're not going to guarantee me money anyway.
Yeah.
Because you saw it also with Jadaveon Clowney and the Texans and the Seahawks. Jadaveon Clowney was able to say, listen, you want to trade me and you can get a pick back and, I'll go play for this other team. And
So where do you think Melvin Gordon might land?
Melvin Gordon's an interesting one because the teams that I had originally liked for him, not going to the Chiefs.
Yeah, think about a team with money, team with nothing,
Well, the
starting
Colts,
to rebuild.
The Colts would have been a good team. Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay, okay. You got the right state.
You think it's going to be? It's not going to be the Miami Dolphins because what are Miami's not going to buy in on a running back. They're not going to pay him money. That goes against what they're trying to do. I think the teams that make sense are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Indianapolis Colts could actually make a lot of sense because he's better than Marlon Mack.
Mm-hmm. And they got a good offensive line to block for a running back, premier running
Exactly. So he would be behind the best offensive line he's ever had in his career. And now you've also taken a little bit of stress off of Jacoby Brissett because now he's got a running back who he can rely on, he could check it down to. And if you're not sticking with Jacoby Brissett after the year, you're probably trading for a quarterback or you're drafting one. Mm-hmm. So you're either trading for Josh Rosen or you're trading
for Miami's first pick.
Yeah, trading up to go ahead and get Tua Tagovailoa and having Melvin Gordon there, a guy who is a big, strong running back who can catch out of the backfield, who can break tackles, who can make stuff go. Like he was behind one of the worst offensive lines. Imagine behind a good one. So the Colts would make sense. I think he would make sense on the Buccaneers, who don't really have anybody over there. I can't think of any NFC. Maybe who would be interesting would be the Seahawks.
Seahawks. I was even thinking the Rams. If Gurley continues, I'm talking to the floor. If Gurley continues to have problems, and
Green Bay Packers.
what's Green Bay's space like though? Do they have enough money to sign him? You know,
I mean, just to know you're going to be playing with Aaron Rodgers, and
I don't think Melvin.
he
Gordon,
would be the best running back there.
Melvin Gordon seeks a trade and takes less money.
Well, you can get guarantees though. See, I think the problem that most of these guys are having, it's not the money, it's the guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
It's how much money am I gonna get guaranteed out of this contract? If Green Bay is like, we'll give you more guarantees, or we'll do this, or we'll find a way to work with you. And also, listen, like, not for nothing, LA Chargers, they seem to kind of always fall apart a little bit. So you go to a team that's better, opportunity to get a ring. Even if he says, listen, you know what, I'll play there for 1 year, but I get a ring on the Green Bay Packers on my fifth year option. Why not?
Yeah.
Even
Just
if they don't
freeze
extend
my
it.
ass off for it.
Yeah, but now all of a sudden, forget about it. Now that team is a whole different level of GOAT.
Correct. And then coming off that year, you're gonna get whatever kind of money you wanted anyway.
Yeah. You get to be on the big screen. You're in Green Bay, one of America's sweetheart teams. I think that's one of those teams that really, like, honestly, I think more people like the Packers than they like the Cowboys as far as America's team goes.
So what do you think about the Patriots? Think that's a possibility?
It doesn't seem like Belichick's style, though.
I heard they were one of the teams that was looking for McCoy, or at least a running back.
Well, McCoy was probably about $6 million cheaper.
Yeah, I get that. But I feel like Melvin Gordon's going to be...
What about Buffalo?
Coming back to Buffalo, I just don't see him going to a team, like I said, like Buffalo.
No, not Lesean McCoy, but
No,
Melvin
I'm
Gordon.
saying Melvin Gordon. I see Melvin Gordon going to a contender.
Well, if they're trading him. And keep in mind, now, say Buffalo gets a guy who they spent a lot of resources on the offensive line. They got a rookie quarterback, and now you got a running back who can catch out of the backfield. Who I was thinking for a bit, the Texans. That was actually one of the first ones I thought when I was thinking they were going to trade him like a few weeks ago, like when he first requested the trade. Problem is, the Texans now don't have any assets to trade. Like, What are they going to trade? A third rounder? A third rounder this year and a third rounder now? Well, they don't even have a third rounder. They don't have anything. They literally don't have anything.
Yep.
So we got down to... We also have McKinnon was put on IR.
He's done.
Yeah, dude, he's made $15 million not playing for the San Francisco 49ers. But if anything, he's making the argument as to why you don't sign running backs to long-term, high-guarantee contracts.
Yep.
So I think that's hurting guys like Melvin Gordon and Zeke Elliott. And forget about Zeke Elliott, dude. Right now, Zeke Elliott, I can't ever tell. Like 5 minutes late, we're close on a deal. We're not close on a deal. We are near the deal. We are away from the deal.
The recent report, I actually like the way Rappaport worded it. Let me just find it real quick. He said that they were closer today than they were yesterday, which is when the initial report came out that they were looking to do a deal over the weekend. And he said that, where is this guy? He posts so much now he won't show up in my field. There he is. Hold on.
Jachai Polite, who we were just about to talk about.
Yeah, talk about that while I look this up.
So Jachai Polite, third-round pick by the Jets this year, got cut. He has been waived by the new GM, and he went through waivers unclaimed. He is now a Seattle Seahawk.
Oh, okay.
Yep. He was he's on their practice squad.
Signed to the. Well, yeah, that's because the Jets said that they didn't want him in the practice squad either. So I think that was an attitude thing. Although, yes, it was like it wasn't his pick.
Well, also Greg Williams didn't like him, and that was one of the big reports.
I think he didn't like him because of his attitude.
The old regime and Adam Gase liked him, and this is one of the issues I had with the way they did everything. Now, I like Greg Williams, but you have to have a coach that wants Greg Williams as their D coordinator. Part of the big problem with McCagnon and doing their head coach interviews is they said they wanted a guy who was specifically going to take on Greg Williams as a D coordinator. Like like that's why Matt Rule turned down the job. Now I think I would rather have Adam Gase than Matt Rule, because if you're taking a guy who's been in the NFL and you've seen at least some, we're not relitigating the whole head coaching hire here, but apparently Adam Gase and McCagnon were on the right side. We're on the same side with that.
But I heard that his attitude was bad, and we have to remember that he was actually handed, in a way, the starting position with Copeland being suspended.
Yeah.
So there's your rookie guy making the starts, and actually, what was funny was during the Week 4 game, listening to the radio before the game, or the preseason Week 4 game, they said don't expect Polite to play tonight because he is the starter in the position, and he didn't play. And he never played again. So he's going to have fun on the Seahawks. That's a cool defense to play for.
Well, he's on the practice squad. He's not even on the actual team. So
I feel like the guy has a ton of potential, but he might just be a head case.
Maybe. And, that was another one. You remember Sua Cravens? Was released by the Broncos, and they said that because Vic Fangio wanted him to win the safety job if he was going to be on the team. That was one of the ones I noted because I paid attention to his response. He was the guy who retired last year on the Redskins, then got traded to the Broncos. And he's kind of a good hybrid safety linebacker guy. So they caught him knowing that, apparently Vic Fangio doesn't like that. He wants you to either be a safety or be a linebacker. He doesn't want the nickel linebacker role in his defense, which is kind of weird. But, if that's your defense, you want to do what you want to do with it. But so he got released, but this is another guy who he came out about why he wanted to be off the Redskins, and it was the same issue that he had as Trent Williams. So I don't know. Redskins are a mess.
Yeah.
By the way, how I had tweeted this the other yesterday when all this was going down. How crazy would it be? I don't think they're going to do this because he's old. If Miami turned around and traded a second rounder for Trent Williams, or traded something for Trent Williams.
I would
imagine if they traded Xavier Howard and a second rounder for him.
I mean, I can see them doing it. I would just start sending death threats to the Redskins, though, because I want Trent Williams.
What?
I want him so bad.
Oh, Trent Williams? Everybody wants Trent Williams.
And they're saying we're not trading him. They know he's not going to play.
Yeah.
They know it. And at this point, they're like, oh, well, he can pay the fine money for holding out. He's going to sue them for more, all that fine money, he's just going to wrap it up in a nice gift present and just add it on to his lawsuit. So, I mean, it's crazy. It's just
dude, that story was
and the thing that makes us mad is we're normal people and we know this, and it's they're making the wrong decision and they're getting paid millions of dollars to do this for a living. Wow, what is going on?
What's going on in that organization? If there's two organizations right now that look like they're a mess. It's first off the Washington Redskins the most. Mm-hmm. And then it's maybe followed by the Texans, but at least the Texans, it's only on the field right now.
Yeah,
it's not it's not in the organization. It's depends on
what you see as organization.
Yeah, but this is just this is a next level ridiculous. You have players, you have millionaires, you have players who have had to have multiple surgeries. Multiple players on your team have had to have multiple surgeries for injuries that typically don't require that level. You've had multiple guys had to go back for surgery, cleanups. It's a mess. And Allen is a horrible president. Schneider's a horrible owner. Honestly, if there was a team where I wish they would kick out the fucking owner, it's the Redskins.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm surprised just seeing this. Really, it's the first time this an issue like this has hit the NFL. As far as medical staff, I'm surprised the league can't step in as far as the medical staff is concerned. Be like, you have a guy who's, we're involved now because we have to fine him if he holds out. But the reason he's holding out is due to your medical staff, and that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
So we're stepping in. We're saying you can fire him or you can give up the team.
It is a mess. I think that was horrible, and and it's multiple players have complained about this. Mm-hmm. And I think I've been pretty staunch on this. This is one of my biggest issues with it. Because you're talking about, he had a tumor and they lied to him about it.
Yeah. And it's not that they didn't see it.
They just lied to him.
They lied.
He doesn't trust them. And then you have two other players who had to go. You had Darius Geis, who's had to have multiple cleanups. You've had Alex Smith, who's had to. Forget it. The reason why Alex Smith's on the roster, but he's not playing, is because their team fucked up. Colt McCoy broke his leg. They made him not get it fixed so he could play in the playoffs, and it didn't heal correctly. Now he's on IR or on the PUP. Like it's a mess.
And that's like long-term, rest of your life gonna mess you up thing after the NFL, after the money's gone.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the money's not gone at that point.
You know.
So I think that wraps up this episode.
Just really quick, I wanted to touch on what Ian Rappaport said today about Zeke. So they've made progress on a new contract extension over the last 24 hours. They aren't there yet. Many obstacles remain, but there is some optimism. So it's going in the right direction.
I don't know what any of that means. I don't know what it means.
The really thing that fucks me up, he goes, the Cowboys and Zeke Elliott have made progress on a new contract extension over the last 24 hours, sources say. Who are the sources? Isn't he the only source?
Well, he's got sources in those organizations.
I get
Ian Rappaport and Schefter, and really I think Rappaport's probably the lead, and then it goes to Schefter, have probably the most sources in all the organizations in the NFL.
I just think there's too much doubt associated with the word sources say.
But those guys are reliable, like especially with Ian Rappaport when he tweets something, you know it's most likely the truth. Like it's based off of real information.
It's just funny that he has to include it, even though it's like over the last 24 hours. It's like, can you just tell us if there was progress or not? We're not talking about the whole thing, just the last 24 hours. But yeah, so I guess optimism. I guess the situation is going up. I guess now it's just a matter of how long it's going to take. How low is it for it to go up all the way to an extension agreement, and how long that will take. Do you see him missing time regardless of whether he signs or not? That's where I'm at right now. I feel like he's at least missing 2 weeks, only because Jerry Jones said weeks, and he didn't say week. And then he hasn't trained one bit. I mean, is he out of shape?
Well, I mean, so first off, the odds of one of these running backs who have been holding out having some kind of soft tissue injury is relatively high. Like, I think it's like odds are one of them is going to end up having a soft tissue injury because they haven't been practicing. They haven't been practicing at NFL speed. They haven't done a preseason game. They haven't done anything. But we've seen it with Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell did not play whole summers, held out, came back, played fine, didn't have a single soft tissue injury. So I think it depends on their regimen.
Yeah,
I want to sit there and give anybody a definitive answer, and I'm more worried specifically with Melvin Gordon because he's had a lot of issues like that, a lot of injuries like that. So I could see that being an issue, and possibly with Zeke. But Zeke's been training. We know, like, he's at least been open about training. We don't know what's going on with Melvin Gordon because he hasn't been as he's not as in the media.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
He's not as recognizable either.
So Le'Veon Bell, I was paying close attention to over the offseason. Every hour he was posting videos of him working out. But
it's not unusual for guys who are coming off of a long holdout, and we've seen this with other positions as well, where they're doing these long holdouts, specifically a receiver. I feel like it was receivers that ended up, like when they held out, they didn't play the whole summer, they came back, and DNs. They're the ones who end up having some soft tissue injuries after these holdouts. So I do worry a little bit about it. I don't know where that puts him as far as your risk assessment goes. If you know he's going to play week 1, I think he's still a first rounder.
I like right as of now, he's still a first rounder. I agree with you. I just maybe for the unintelligent fantasy football player, if you want
fantasy in another
I get that and
I don't know what's going to end up happening with that team. That's
such a weird situation. And this is another thing we talked about.
It's just been a crazy weekend, man. It's a crazy weekend. So anyway, you can follow the podcast at Draftvice on Instagram, at Draftvice_football on Instagram, at Draftvice on Twitter. You can follow me at Brojo Death Punch. That's BROJO. Death is in the end of life. Punch. Like that delicious drink you drink at parties. And follow Steve at
Pums142 on Instagram. We have the Bi-State. We have a Bi-State fantasy football Instagram too. We're going to definitely be active with it during the season, and that handle is Bi-State Fantasy Football. BI State Fantasy Football.
And if you're listening to this on the iTunes, leave a review, rate it, try to get this thing, share it with a friend, even if you don't like your friends. Give it to a friend of yours that's not in your league, and or share it on your Twitter. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave a review, and keep in touch with the Instagram, because the Instagram's got a lot of fun shit. Tune in next time, folks.
Yes. Do that, or I'll kill you.
No murder. No murder on the podcast.
It's a football podcast. Of course, there's murder allowed.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
All right.
People.